Well, good morning and welcome to your Financial Empower Hour. Jason Cryderman here, host of our show today with my awesome friend, Mr. Tony Shore over in the Minnesota area. Tony, how the heck are you, buddy? It's been a couple weeks since we recorded a live show because we had Christmas and then we had New Year's. We had just overall holiday vacations. And then, we were gone for a week at the Gradient Summit and Elite Advisors Conference down in Austin, Texas, which was awesome to see you there.
Good to see you.
How the heck have you been, man? It's been a while since I've seen you face to face.
Well, I tell you what, I'm cold. I'm warming my hands over the monitor right now as we record the show. Cold. It's been very cold here. I don't know about in Michigan, but in the Detroit area. But wow, it's been cold. We have no snow on the ground, even though it's Minnesota. We have none on the ground,
really?
But it's freezing cold. Yeah.
So you must still have a lot of ice because Minnesota, again, known as the land of the lakes. And I know I'm an ice fisherman. I love winter. And I was actually able to get out this past weekend with Carson. So we'll talk a little bit more about his and I's ice fishing trip. But speaking of the cold in Minnesota, you guys are known as land of the lakes. I've only seen it in magazines or TV shows. You might be able to attest to this. But on some of the lakes over there, don't they have like little, almost in the winter, it's almost like little cities or villages of ice shanties and food trucks and everything out on the ice. And it's just like a whole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we drive right on the ice. Sometimes on some lakes, there's shortcuts for people during the winter. They don't have to drive all the way around. They make a road
get across town.
Like there's a restaurant at that side, and all the cabin people, they have a road that they take.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's across the lake.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that happens, especially the further north. Like you get up in the North Country, they have what's called the Eel Pout Festival, where people go eel pout fishing. There's these big things that you catch in the lakes up north, but the ice is so thick, they build basically a town. There's ice bars. There's restaurants on the ice.
That's crazy.
It's nutty.
We get really good ice over here most of the time.
Sure.
You can drive four-wheelers and snowmobiles and even some vehicles out on some of the lakes and some of the areas. But just some of the things I've seen about the ice towns and ice cities and ice restaurants and ice, just like right out on the middle of a huge, huge lake in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. But, we've been getting some Arctic air over here as well. As we're recording this show, it's warming up today, actually. Yesterday and today, we're getting back into the 30s. But last week, we were down sub-zero temperatures every morning when we woke up. And then feels like temperatures, wind chill was in the minus 20s for 2 or 3 days in a row. So please don't send any of that weather over here again, Tony. I know you love to send your weather, what you've had 2-3 days go over to us. We don't need it. I love winter. As I mentioned, Carson and I got to go out ice fishing this past weekend, and we love winter, right? I love snowmobiling. Carson loves the snowmobile. We have a side-by-side and a four-wheeler, both have plows on those. So Carson and I get out and plow the driveway and plow our road. We love ice fishing. Those are awesome things that, the rest of my family, Amy and the girls, no, they don't need the outside stuff. They rather stay inside with on the couch with a blanket and a book and in front of the fireplace. Right. But, but Carson and I got to go out ice fishing this weekend, and it was interesting. We went with a buddy of mine and we went over to the Saginaw Bay area, which is generally all of our listeners and viewers, when you hear Saginaw Bay in the winter, they think walleye fishing. And walleye fishing, Tony, is huge over here in the Saginaw Bay area. There's literally thousands and thousands of portable shanties up all day long, all up the Saginaw River and out on the bay. Well, we didn't do that. We actually stayed a little more inland. We went to a little marina. We fished the inside of a marina that one of my buddies had fished a couple weeks ago, and he limited out with his friend a couple weeks ago. They caught over 20 perch each, and they were really nice sized fish. So we were excited about that. We get out on the lake yesterday morning. It was about 8 o'clock. We get our portable shanties set up. By 8:15, Carson caught the first fish. I think the minnow we were using was bigger than the fish he caught. And that's just kind of how the day went. I'll bet between the 4 or 5 of us guys that were out there, we probably caught 100 fish, perch and bluegill. But
wow.
I think we only had 10 keepers out of all of them. Literally, it was hard to catch anything bigger than 6-7 inches or so. But it was a hell of a lot of fun.
That's not why you go ice fishing. I remember in high school and college, buddies would go ice fishing down in Worthington, Minnesota. And it was just they'd put up an ice house, cut a hole in the lake, drill the hole, put in the lines, and then drink. So it was an excuse. It's an excuse to go sit. And I'm like, can't we do this indoors?
Yeah. Why do we have to go outside? Why do we have to bundle up and haul all this stuff out there and dig this hole and sit on the freezing ice to just?
But I want to share the screen real quick, Jason, with our viewers. For our listeners, you're going to have to check out the Your Financial Empower Hour on Jason's YouTube page. And there are links on his website on the radio show page. But I'm going to try sharing this screen here. Let's see, which one is it? It's the Pout PNG. Here we go. I'm going to share this right now.
Wow. So tell us. So again, our listeners, if you're a listener of the radio show, you need to go to my YouTube channel, which you can go right to just by going to YouTube, typing in my name, type in Great Lakes Investment Advisor, go to the website, go to my radio page on the website. You can click on my YouTube channel from there. Those of you that are viewing on the YouTube channel, Tony, what the heck are we looking at?
You're looking at the Eel Pout Festival in Walker, Minnesota each year. And campers, homes. Crazy. And if you look on the right-hand side of this photo, there's kind of in the middle toward the right, you see a full building that's on the lake. There's a full building.
Big white. There. It's like a big white building.
Yeah, there's a restaurant and a bar and maybe hotel rooms in there, and it's on the lake. And this is there are streets that they make. Up
you can see there's actual intersections and roads. And
and there are a couple of lakes and festivals where they do this. But isn't it crazy? And those are vehicles out there.
Yeah.
Those are trailers. There's fifth wheel campers.
You can see there's campers out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when it's been below zero for about 2 weeks and you're in your second or third month of winter, that's way up in northern Minnesota. That ice is 4 feet thick. You're 3 feet thick. It's not going anywhere.
No, it's not going anywhere. Now, have you ever been up there? Have you ever been out on that ice?
I personally have not been to the Eel Pout Festival. I guess it's just it's kind of one big party, I guess.
It looks like
it gets crazy, but I have a lot of friends who have been, and I have been on lakes where maybe not to this size or effect, but they've built little towns on the lakes. And I've snowmobiled up there on lakes that, you can snowmobile out to a bar in the middle of a lake, and they have a full bar. It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, Tony, if you would, next time I get a chance to get over to Minneapolis and see you when it's in the wintertime, if we have an opportunity to do that, I would love to plan an extra day, either before I come out or, I'll stay a day longer. Sure. I would love to take a day and do something like that with you and the guys over there, and just whether it's that place there or another. That just, to me, that looks like just an amazing experience to say, yep, I've been there, I've done that. What a cool place.
Yeah, it is unbelievable, really. And a lot of people, we tell people we drive vehicles on lakes, and no one believes me.
Yeah, and we do that here. We do.
Of course you do. Yeah.
You can easily drive your side-by-sides, your four-wheelers, your snow, and even vehicles. You can drive vehicles out there. As a matter of fact, it seems like it's a shame. It's unfortunate, but every year, I mentioned the Saginaw Bay area, every year there's probably a half dozen or more snowmobiles, side-by-sides, even full vehicles that they go through the ice.
Yep.
There's people that
people are going on the lakes when it's not advised or where it's not advised. Yep. The only place I would do that, it would have to be the middle of the state and above. If you get below the half, there are people doing it, but you also hear about people that try to go too early in the season or too late, or like last year when we only had a couple of days of really cold weather. And you don't want to go on a lake that has open. If you see open water anywhere,
probably not a good sign, right? Even to walk out there. I was telling my buddy as we're getting ready to go fishing yesterday. I said, "Well, how much ice is out there?" He's like, "Oh, there's over 12 inches where I go." And I know there's some of our buddies that they go out 5, 6, 7 miles out on Saginaw Bay, and they sometimes have to go across cracks where it's open water. They're going maybe 6 inches of ice, maybe 2 inches, and I thought, what? There is no fish worth it for me to put my life on the line. There's fish markets all around I can buy fish at. Matter of fact, a lot of restaurants have very, very good Friday night fish fries where I could go get fresh perch or walleye and I don't have to risk my life, my life to do it. So
no, and there's places you can go do it safely if it's been cold enough.
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially in Minnesota. In northern Minnesota, it's usually every winter there's at least a month where you can pretty much drive on any lake up there.
That's pretty cool. So again, any of my listeners right now, if you're not able to see this picture, but I highly encourage you to go look up my YouTube channel, look up Jason Cryderman on YouTube, or look up Great Lakes Investment Advisors on YouTube. Become a subscriber. We'd love that. That way you'll stay in touch with all my shows, and click on this picture, or you can go to my website, greatlakesinvestmentadvisors.com, go to my radio show tab, and then when on radio show page, you can link directly to my YouTube channel, because this picture, Tony, is, that is just, like I say, a picture says 1,000 words. That's amazing. There are literally campers. There's a big
and it's
building.
Ice. That's a lake, and that's ice all the way up to the trees on the shoreline. That's ice. There's all actual on streets. The ice.
There's like 2-lane roads out there you can see cars driving on.
Yep.
So those of you that are listeners, you got to go check it out. Those of you that are viewing this on YouTube, thank you for being a subscriber. But that's quite an amazing picture, Tony. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I can't wait till this airs on YouTube. I'm gonna make sure I show Carson. And once I show him that, Tony, Carson's gonna want to come over there too. He's gonna want you to take him out there. So just be ready for that.
You're gonna want to rent a couple of snowmobiles or throw them on a trailer and drive over.
Yeah, well, we have sleds, but you know what? Rather than haul them all the way over, like I say, because as you know, we fly over to Gradient Investments, which is right there where you work for in Minneapolis, or just outside of Minneapolis. And so we usually get over there once or twice a year for different elite advisor training and conferences. And so one of the next ones I get over to in the winter months, if the ice is solid like that, Tony, I'd love for you guys to take us up there. I'd like to experience at least one day of that.
Isn't it great? Yeah. That's awesome. I absolutely love that. So, I thought you'd like to see a picture of it, and our viewers out there, listeners.
That was so cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Because a lot of people don't believe it. They're like, a few ice houses together. No, it's like full cities. It's unbelievable. Well, I know we have a great topic lined up for today, Jason. We're going to be talking about retirement goals. Like, where do you begin? And your goals might be different at 40 than 50 than 60, but there are specific goals you need to set in retirement planning, things you need to get done. And when we come back, we're going to start the next 3 segments. The rest of the show we'll spend on that. But before we do that, Jason, should we give away a few copies of your book?
Yeah, matter of fact, I'm good thing you asked. I'm glad you asked, because as of last year, the number of books that you had given away on the show, Tony, just blew my mind. So thank you for doing that. Because again, the reason we wrote this book, my dad and I wrote this book, I'll share with my viewers and listeners again, isn't to become rich by people going on to Amazon and buying this book, which you can do. You can buy it on Amazon, but for every book sold, I get like 79 cents as a royalty. So
you're not getting rich.
I'm not getting rich. That's not why I did it. Tony, the whole purpose I wrote this book was because I wanted to share real life experiences of how myself and my dad and my team have found investors and have helped them improve whatever phase of life they're in, have helped them improve financially. And so it's awesome to be able to share that information. So every time you offer books on this radio show, our phone rings off the hook. We're giving away from 3 to 5 books per show, maybe more. And so we just did a large investment, and we bought a bunch more books, Tony, and they're downstairs in the basement. So again, I want to challenge all my viewers. I want to challenge my listeners. If you don't have a copy of my book yet, please listen to Tony. When he says to call the office or get online and request a free copy of the book, please do that. That's the reason I bought all these books, is I want to share this information with you. And if you'd like 2 copies or 3 to give to a friend, a relative, a neighbor, somebody else you love and care about that you'd like to share the information with, please take Tony up on this offer, because I love giving these books away. That's the whole reason we wrote the book, Tony. So yeah, please, let's continue that this year. It was a great success last year. So let's continue, Tony, by giving more of the books away.
Yeah, awesome. We'll do that for the next 10 people that contact your office and request a copy of the book. They will get the book no charge, mailed to them at no charge. There's no cost, no obligation. Just call 989-835-7203. That number again, 989-835-7203. And they can find more information or set up a consultation online at Great greatlakes.investmentadvisors.com. That's greatlakes.investmentadvisors.com. And we'll be right back with more of your Financial Empower Hour. All right. Well, Jason, great first segment. We mainly talked about ice fishing, but
it's that time of year, right? It's that time of year, and
Right.
I know a lot of our listeners and a lot of our viewers, they're ice fishermen themselves, so they get it, and they probably really enjoyed that. And here's another thing I'd like to do. A couple times last year, Tony, throughout the year, we talked about it. We would have listeners or viewers from YouTube call in after the show, and they would add some of their thoughts and topics that hey, I went ice fishing too, Jason. I was out there at that same marina or the same place, or hey, that picture Tony showed on your YouTube channel about that city on the ice. I've been there before. So viewers, listeners, if you have some things in common with things Tony and I talk about on the show, whether it's our personal stories we talk about or even your professional situations, or please feel free, please give me a call here at the office. Share that information with Tony and I. We love hearing back from our viewers and our listeners. And if there's any topics we don't talk about, by all means, please call, let me know, let my team know, and I will make sure that Tony and I put together shows revolving around all the topics you want to see and you want to hear about. So
if you have financial questions, or you've run up against a financial issue, or you have a situation you want us to discuss, or you want Jason to dissect it for you, let us know.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about it on an upcoming show. And I think that's another great offer, Jason, to our listeners and viewers out there. I know you love hearing from them. Again, all they have to do is call 989-835-7203, even if it's just to talk about the Eel Pout Festival in Walker, Minnesota, which is where that was from.
And I tell you what, we will talk more about that. I hope at some point in time, my viewers, again, if you're viewing me on YouTube, thank you again for being a YouTube follower. And if you're a listener, but if you have access to YouTube, whether it's through your phone or your tablet or your computer, please go out there to my YouTube channel. Please become a subscriber. When you get a chance, take a look at this show. Tony put up an amazing picture in that first segment of this festival at one of the northern lakes in Minnesota. And it is an absolute city out there with literally 2-lane roads, with a restaurant, a bar, with campers. It's amazing. Yeah. So hopefully, Tony, one of these shows we'll be able to show a picture of that with you and me out there together.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Out on the ice. Yeah. Well, speaking of ice fishing, one of the biggest fishermen I know is our producer and editor, Mitch Heil.
Oh, is Mitch a big fisherman?
He's huge. Yeah.
Okay. I did not know that.
That's his life. Yeah.
Okay.
Fishing and lakes, especially in the Midwest, in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. He's all over that. He makes these beautiful lake maps. Plus, he's really into fishing. He's been at the big Minnesota boat show the last 4 days. So
very
enjoying
cool.
that. And he even had a booth there, but he fishes a lot. So he'll enjoy this as well. And he'll want to take you out ice fishing. But Jason, the reason we talked about ice fishing in that first segment is because to avoid having to talk about the Lions and the Vikings, our respective teams.
I knew you were going to go there. Yeah. I mean, we, as our listeners and viewers know, generally the first segment, Tony and I talk a lot about sports and a lot about our personal lives. And so, last week we didn't get a chance to record because it was a holiday.
Well, it was more because we were in mourning, but it was a holiday.
It was an unfortunate holiday, a national holiday, but you're right, Tony, for you and me. It was a lot of mourning. We're there in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The week before, your 2 weeks before that, your Vikings had lost, and then the week before, our Lions had lost. So you and I, there's been a lot of mourning. There's been a lot of sad times.
Yeah.
But we can dwell on it. We can talk. We can bitch and complain, right? And at the end of the day, hey, sometimes as you and I have both talked about, the best team doesn't always win. And that was a great learning experience, Tony, that I had an opportunity with Carson, as he was very upset, obviously, that the Lions won. And he said, Dad, they're just statistically, they're the best, and they're the best team.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Carson, here's a great learning experience for you, bud, that whether it be his baseball or football or maybe his kids someday or other areas of life, the best team doesn't always win. And so it was a great learning experience that I was able to have with my son, because I truly believe, and I think most of our listeners and viewers are going to agree with that, whether you're from Michigan or not.
I agree with it.
I think Detroit was a better team overall than Washington. However, they got out coached maybe. I don't think they came in prepared and ready for Washington like they should have.
Yep.
And of course, Washington comes in, they're a number 5 seed. What do they have to lose? Right. I mean, leave it all out there. And I don't think Detroit was prepared and ready. And lo and behold, you have 4 or 5 turnovers, and that underdog is they're rocking and rolling. And next thing you know, you're on your heels, you're against the wall, and the game ended a little too soon with the scoreboard in the wrong.
Well, you just have to be satisfied with the fact that the Lions had an incredible season,
and they're 2 seasons in a row. I mean, just amazing,
an incredible seasons, incredible team. Well, let's move on and quickly to our topic today, which is retirement goals. Where would you like to start with this? Let's get a couple of things in before we have to take our next break.
Yeah, so I think this is a great time of year, and talking about the Lions, I'm sure they're sitting here. Dan Campbell's doing the same thing right now, whether he's at home or maybe he took a vacation, he's on a beach somewhere. He's planning. He is planning. What can he do different? Okay, but first of all, he's going to reflect upon this season, this past year, and I think as our just lives as humans in life, not only financially, but these are the times where we should be sitting back, whether you did it over the holidays or maybe you're doing it now, and just reflect upon the last year in your life personally. What happened? What went really well for you? What didn't go so well? Did you set goals or dreams or visions of last year that you achieved, whether that be personally or financially? If you did, celebrate yourself. That's a great accomplishment. Congratulate yourself and celebrate yourself. If you set some goals or dreams you didn't achieve, well, assess why. Why didn't you achieve those goals or dreams, whether they were personally or financially? And now is a great time to say, well, what do I want to do this year? If you didn't already set those, what we call New Year's resolutions, right, Tony, that you and I both know, probably by about this, let's see, it's the Monday, the 27th as we record. By time this plays, it'll be into the first week of February. Statistically, I've heard that about 80 to 90% of those New Year's resolutions have already failed. Just because
people have already moved on and
moved on. Now so today we're going to talk in the show quite a bit about that. I want to talk about failure, but I want to talk about failure, whether you're in your 20s, your 50s, or your 80s, and not only in our financial lives, but personally. Because I truly look at it, especially from a financial standpoint, is if we set out to accomplish a certain goal. I mean, we want to earn 8% this year, or when markets are going bad, right? The market's going to be down, might be down 20. I don't want to lose more than 50% or whatever the market's down. Or I want to control my tax, whatever it might be. We can only focus our attention and efforts on what we can control. There's a lot of variables out there, professionally, financially, in our personal lives, we cannot control. But what we can control is how we allow ourselves to be exposed to those things in life, whether we want to accomplish them or avoid them, and then how we react when we are either successful or, more importantly, when we don't hit the mark or when we fail. I wanted to make 8% last year. I only made 5. Well, don't quit. Or I didn't want to eat any pizza. I didn't want to eat any pizza this year. And darn it, Tony, I know you've had pizza. You love pizza. I love pizza. But think about that. I want to lose weight. I don't want to eat any pizza. And here we are, January 27th, and Tony and I already ate pizza. Well, that you know what? That's not a failure. Maybe we say, hey, you know what? How about for February, Tony, we only eat pizza once a week. And then if we accomplish that goal in a short time frame, then maybe for March, Tony and I, we say, hey, we're only going to eat pizza once every 2 weeks. And then if we're successful at that, April, we say, I'm not going to eat pizza in the month of April. And you know what we're going to do in May? We're going to eat pizza. You should be able to set these goals and dreams, but reality, small chunks, whether that be a personal goal, a professional goal, and especially in your financial goals. So that's, Tony, really what I want to talk today in the show about is how do we set these goals? First of all, are they realistic? Do we have a plan, right? How are we tracking these goals? Like, does our plan tell us if we're on track or off track? How do we track that? And if we're on track, how do we celebrate or maybe extend or improve or make that a bigger dream or goal moving forward? And if we're not on track, is it a failure? Do we just throw in the towel and quit? Or do we say, hey, I'm not on track. I'm not hitting this goal, but here's what I'm going to do. So I need to assess my progress or my degress, and then be able to adjust it accordingly and move forward.
Right. And I like, Jason, how you said set realistic goals especially when you're talking about finances.
Absolutely.
And making the goals realistic. Like for a guy like me, saying I'm not going to eat pizza this year would not be a realistic goal.
Not nothing against you personally, but you're right, not realistic. But Tony, I challenge you. If you said I'm only going to eat pizza once a week,
yeah,
that's maybe more realistic, right?
It is.
It might hurt once in a while when you say, gosh, I usually eat it 2-3 times a week, but I'm not cutting it out, right? I'm not cutting it out. Same thing financially in our lives. I mean, everyone wants to be a millionaire, but do you think all the millionaires in this world got there in a week or a month or a year? No. As a matter of fact, some of them may have been halfway there, and then all of a sudden the stock market of 2008 or another bad time in the market took half their money away from them. They didn't quit. They didn't give up. So assess your plan, whether it be professionally, personally, financially, assess where you are often and be ready to reset, rebalance, and go for it again.
There you go. Well, we're going to take a quick break here again to give away some more books. The book is called Empower Your Retirement, and Jason and his father wrote this book, and it's a great book. It is available on Amazon, but we've got 10 more copies if the first 10 callers who call the office and request it. And if you get the voicemail or don't get somebody, leave a message or call back. We'll send you out a book at no cost. You don't have to pay postage or anything. There's no obligation, no payment needed. Just call and get a copy of the book. Jason wants our listeners to have that because it's such a valuable financial guide. Call 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203, and request a copy of Empower Your Retirement. And you are listening to your financial Empower Hour, I should say. And I'm here with our host, Jason Cryderman. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and we're talking about goals. Your first point when it came to retirement and financial goals is to keep them realistic. And what's another goal or thing we can do to set retirement goals? What should we be looking at?
Yeah, so I think realistic is a big deal, right? And we can't shoot too big. We all want to achieve these big goals and dreams, but really, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, right?
One bite at a time.
How do you cut these things out of your diet? One bite at a time, right? You don't have to say, I'm never doing that again. I mean, cold turkey things usually don't work. Now, sometimes they do, and some people are awesome. It's great, and it's congratulations. But if they don't work, whether it's a personal goal, a professional, and we focus a lot of this, Tony, obviously around financial investing, because that's what we are as fiduciary financial advisors. We help people primarily with their finances. And so keep it realistic. So most of the families I help manage money for, let's say they come to me with $500,000 or, $750,000, and they say, well, my objective or goal is to get to $1 million. I promise you, they don't say, I want to get there in a month or a year, right? We build a plan that's realistic that says we're going to get there over time. How are we going to get there? Very carefully, very slowly, very methodically. What we are also going to do, Tony, is my second point of advice, is to write it down. If you don't have your goals, your dreams, if you don't have everything you want to buy at your grocery shopping trip written down, if you're anything like me, you'll go in with 10 things on your mind. You'll walk out with 3 that you didn't have written down. So write it down, right? Write the checklist, write the grocery list, write your goals on a piece of paper that you can look at often. So write it down is the second one, because if you don't have a plan, a written plan, how can you keep track of it? How can you follow it and hold yourself accountable? We are very big on that, as you know, Tony, and you talk about it a lot, and it's in my show, or I'm sorry, we talk about it in the show a lot, and it's in the book. I have multiple chapters in the book that refer to your financial empowerment plan. Your financial empowerment plan. What is that? It is a written plan. And a lot of my viewers and a lot of my listeners are probably thinking, well, yeah, I have a 401k. Yep, I have an IRA. Yep, I have savings. Yep, I have my life. So you have a plan. Well, actually, you might not have a plan if you just have those pieces. You probably have a lot of variables to that equation, but you need a written plan built around that says, why do you own what you own? Why are you investing in what you're investing in? How much are you going to invest and when? If ABC happens, then this will happen. For example, if the market goes up 20 or 30%, you're probably going to rebalance, capture some of your gains, pull some winnings off the table, protect those dollars. If the market falls, you're probably going to look at rebalancing, reinvesting, buy low, sell high. So these are all variables, Tony, that I think people really need to take into consideration when I say have a plan, have a written plan. And the written plan, whether it's a personal plan, whether it's a professional plan, it's your financial plan, whatever it is, again, like you said, keep it realistic and keep it written down in front of you.
Yeah.
Third thing, when I say keep it realistic, keep it written in front of you, is I want you to review that. And I need you to review it more than once a year. So let's talk about our let's say we set these, these annual goals. It's New Year's and I'm setting this New Year's resolution. Well, if I wait till next December to say, gee, how did I do, Tony, on my New Year's resolution? How did I do? It's 12 months ago. Realistically, check yourself, review and monitor your plan, personal, professional, financial, review and monitor these plans on maybe a weekly, monthly, or a quarterly basis.
Yeah. Don't wait a year. Don't set goals in January and then in December go, hey, let's see how we did.
Correct.
That's not going to work.
It might be an annual goal, right? It might be an annual goal, but you need to track your progress on a monthly basis. Track how you're doing. And if you're on track, great, stay the course, right? But keep tracking it. It's out of sight, out of mind can get you in trouble if you don't track that, because then you don't know how far offline you might be or off goal. And if you don't know how far off goal you are, how do you know what changes you need to make to get yourself back on track? So again, personally, it's no different than we help families with on a financial basis. We set out for these annual goals, but we review them on a monthly and a quarterly basis. And sometimes we find out we're right on line. No changes need to be made at all. But sometimes we're either ahead of our goal. Hey, that's great. What should we do now to protect ourselves? We've made more money than we wanted to or set out to do. That's a great problem to have. How do we now rebalance, capture some gains, and protect those dollars for our future? Or maybe we didn't hit the spot. Maybe we tried to make 10% and we're only at 5%. Well, why? What happened? And what do we need to do to make up that ground? I wouldn't call that a failure, Tony. We're assessing our goals and determining what do we need to do now to change that into a success. And so again, keep them realistic, write it down, and review and monitor often. And when you're reviewing and monitoring, do not be afraid to change course. You don't have to abort mission. You just might have to change course to help yourself be more successful.
Yeah, because nobody has a crystal ball. Things happen, but you need to be able to make adjustments along the way. That's why the regular reviewing of your financial goals and your retirement goals are so important. And I know one thing that helps my wife and I with that for our retirement goals and our financial planning is working with a trusted financial professional. And that's why you're here. And Jason, and I know you're more than happy to meet with our listeners, talk to them about this, and to set up a no charge, no obligation consultation.
Sure, absolutely.
All they have to do is call 989-835-7203. That number again is 989-835-7203. We still have some books available to give out this week, and you're setting up no charge, no obligation consultations for our listeners out there. So listeners, pick up the phone, give Jason a call, or set something up through the website, which is GreatLakesInvestmentAdvisors.com. That's GreatLakesInvestmentAdvisors.com. All right, and we're continuing with your Financial Empower Hour. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with Jason. We've had a great show. We're covering financial goals, retirement goals, and ice fishing today. So it's been a great show. We're avoiding football. So
indeed we are, Tony. At this point, we are as our listeners and our viewers know, Tony's team, the Minnesota Vikings, and of course my team, the Detroit Lions. Both of them exited out of the playoffs earlier than we would have anticipated, expected, and wanted. So Tony and I have chosen to say that's enough talking about football for now.
Right.
We'll come back to it, right? We'll review, we'll monitor, we'll change, right? But as of now, we're going to say, hey, let's move on to ice fishing. Or again, if you watch that first segment of my show on YouTube today, or if you're a listener and did not see the YouTube, please go out to YouTube, find us on YouTube. It's great. You can type in Great Lakes Investment Advisors. You can type in Jason Cryderman. Please become a subscriber of my YouTube channel and take a look at today's show. You will be blown away by the picture Tony shared about the ice city that is in a northern lake up in Minnesota. It's crazy. So please check that out. And again,
awesome.
Thank you. If you are a viewer, thank you for being a viewer and a subscriber. Please share this also with your friends and family and neighbors and the ones you love. If you enjoy listening to the content of Tony and I as we have these shows, if you enjoy listening to us on the radio, share that with other family and friends. Maybe they'll listen to us. Become a subscriber on YouTube. That'd be great. And share that with your friends and family as well. So thank you again for being listeners, and thank you again for being subscribers.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and they can actually just go to Jason. They can go to youtube.com and type in Your Financial Empower Hour.
Even better. Yeah. So
and
the name of the show,
and they'll pull up the show right there.
Even better. So our listeners on the radio, obviously, that's the name of our radio show every Sunday morning is Your Financial Empower Hour. You can also catch us, the radio show, whether you make it in the morning to listen to the show or not. You can catch it on every podcast or I'm sorry, Tony, like iTunes.
Yep. All the major podcasts.
All the major podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Yeah. So you can catch us on any of those. That way you can listen to us anywhere at any time. Doesn't have to be Sunday morning when the show airs. And as Tony mentioned, go to YouTube, type in Your Financial Empower Hour. We pop up. Please click on us, become a subscriber, like our page. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So retirement goals. What's another retirement goal we should be looking at?
Yeah.
Financial goal.
Yep. And again, I like to talk about these obviously from a financial standpoint, because that's what I am as a fiduciary financial advisor. And that's what myself and my team here at Great Lakes helps families with, or help investors with, is saving money for retirement, building financial empowerment plans, successfully getting to the end of that finish line and saying, all right, I'm at retirement. I've accomplished my goals. Now it's into and through retirement. How do I structure my portfolio, my investments? I want to manage my risk exposure, my tax exposure, my fee exposure. I might want to get guaranteed lifetime income. We call it mailbox money that you can never outlive. So those are a lot of the ways we impact families and help investors from a financial aspect. But we can also listen to this show and take all these into our personal lives as well, professional lives, if we're setting out for careers or whatever it might be. So kind of recapping what we talked about so far was set your goals small so they're reasonable, right? You don't want to set this, I have $100 in my bank account and I want to be a millionaire by the end of the year. Well, I'm not sure if that's realistic, if that's going to happen or not, right? So set realistic goals, write them down, review them often, monitor and review, and don't be afraid to make changes. Now, when I talk, Tony, I want to make sure I point this out too, that when you set your goals and you write them down, please make sure they're personal, meaning they are realistic for you. And I'll say this because I know that I'm in a different phase of my life than a lot of the clients I work for. And then obviously my daughter, who's 17 years old. So don't just be talking to your buddies, your friends at church, or, your neighbors or family and say, yeah, I'm going to set the same goal. Now, sometimes you will, right? Because sometimes you have things in common, but really when you set your goals, whether it be personal, professional, financial, whatever it is, make sure they're realistic for you. Number one, they're really what you want to achieve because they're going to benefit you and make you feel better, but they're also achievable by you. And we've seen that quite often, especially from a financial standpoint, where, Tony, a lot of people come in and see us either just before they're retired, in maybe the 1 to 5 years before retirement. We call that the retirement red zone. And then they're in retirement and they have investments inside, let's say their 401k. And so we ask them, hey, inside this $200,000 401k, Tony, you have 5 investments. Why do you own those? And the answer we get a lot of times is, well, because I was talking to my buddy who's in the other department, and then the girl across the other cubicle, she did this. And when we went out to agree, they're not personalizing their money based on their goals and objectives in lives. Unfortunately, they're doing that because that's what other people told them they were doing. And it worked out. They said, oh yeah, they made 20% last year, so I did it. Well, be careful not just jumping on that train of doing what other people are doing because it sounded good. Really reflect on, is it right and is it in your best interest? And again, that's whether it's financial, Tony, whether it's professional, whether it's personal. You got to make sure that these things are really what you want to accomplish and really catered towards you and your goals and objectives.
Yeah. And I think that's huge, Jason. We're talking about financial and retirement goals, and it's so important to set goals. And to do that, you need to see where you're at personally, not where your brother-in-law is at, your buddy,
Correct. Yep.
a coworker, a relative, a neighbor. That doesn't matter. Your situation matters for you, or you and your spouse. Yep. And the way you're going to be able to figure that out is to work with somebody like yourself, Jason. You can work with Jason and his team there at Great Lakes Investment Advisors, and they will help figure out, okay, here's where you're at. What's your risk tolerance? Are your goals realistic? What should your goals be based on the age you're at? That makes a big difference.
Absolutely, it does. Yep.
So these things all add up. And for our listeners out there, the way to do this is get a written plan in place. And if you feel, I've got a retirement plan, I've got a 401k, or I've talked to this guy over here, get a second opinion on all of that. Get a plan in place that you know is up to date. There's been a lot of changes. So Jason, to end the show, we should probably wrap it up now. And let's get our listeners to call to not only get a copy of the book, there are a few copies left to give away this week yet, but also to set up that consultation with you and your staff. There is no charge. And again, no obligation. Leave your checkbook at home. It's 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203. Or they can go to GreatLakesInvestmentAdvisors.com. Well, Jason, great show today.
It was a wonderful show. Thank you again to our listeners on the radio, and thank you again to our viewers on YouTube. And if you're a YouTube viewer and you haven't checked out the show, check out the show. And if you're a radio listener but haven't seen us on YouTube, check us out on YouTube. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jason, and thanks, listeners. That does it for today's episode of Your Financial Empower Hour.